you looking for a new whiskey adventure? Then climb in and buckle up. Get ready for one hell of a ride on the Whiskey Trip podcast with your host, Big Chief. Join in as he and his guests explore whiskey and dive into whiskey stories from around the world. Now here's your host, Big Chief.
Folks, you know, here on the Whiskey Trip, we celebrate more than just the pour in our glass. We celebrate heritage, tradition, and the stories that make this country what it is. That's why I'm proud to tell you about our friends at the Heritage Flag Company. These aren't just flags, they're handcrafted works of art built from whiskey and bourbon barrels that once held the spirit we all love. Every cut, every nail, every burn mark tells a story of patience and craftsmanship. Just like the whiskey we sip, these flags are bold, timeless, and full of character. Whether you hang one in your home bar, your man cave, or gift it to a veteran or first responder, a heritage flag isn't just decor. It's a statement. It says you believe in freedom, tradition, and the legacy we pass down. So saddle up, whiskey family, and head over to theheritageflag.com. Use code WhiskeyTrip10 at checkout for 10% off your order. Let them know Big Chief sent you. Because just like your favorite pour, the Heritage Flag Company is made to be shared, honored, and remembered. Now let's get on to the show. Hey, it's old Big Chief, and yeah, you're taking another ride on a whiskey trip, baby. And I got another great episode for you, listeners, viewers. I've got Duck Club Bourbon on with me. And I got McCauley Williams with me. And I've had McCauley Williams on a podcast with me before. We're not going to talk too much about that. But McCauley, welcome to the Whiskey Trip, my brother.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Big Chief.
Yeah, well, I got this whiskey sent to me. And I'm like, man, this fits my old ass because I'm a duck hunter. I'm a outdoorsman, and this kind of hits home for me. It's got some ducks on it, Duck Club. And I'm guessing that you're a duck hunter as well.
I am. That's the genesis of the brand for sure.
And I like the bottle because it looks like it's got a shotgun shell primer on the bottom of it, on the
That's
head.
exactly right.
But before we get into that, what's your background and what's your role at Duck Club?
Yeah, so I'm at this point a serial entrepreneur in the spirit space. I've built a number of brands. My current company is called Morningside Brands. And under Morningside, I'm building a portfolio of premium craft spirit brands, each with their own unique lifestyle and story. Under that portfolio at Morningside, we have Duck Club Bourbon, we have Almadel Jaguar Tequila, and Waymar Gin House. So bourbon, tequila, and gin. At Duck Club, I am the CEO and co-founder. Co-founded the brand with my buddy Riley Green, the Duck Man himself. And we're just out here trying to have a whole lot of fun in a bourbon market that's in an interesting place. Interesting place for a number of reasons we can get into. I'll let you ask some more questions, though.
Yeah. So before we go too much further,
Sure.
I'm sipping on the 92 proof. Take me into this right here, because these are definitely a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys. Take me
So
through
look,
what this one is.
Yeah, we got two expressions. We got a 92 proof and a 110 proof. The 92 proof that you're sipping on now is our blue label. It's a blend of 5 and 6 year old Kentucky bourbons. The blend combined together makes it into a 4 grain. So we blend a rye grain bourbon with a wheated bourbon. Together they make the 4 grain. So we are working with sourcing juice out of a couple of different badass distilleries in Kentucky. This one's 80% Claremont, Kentucky distillate. 88% Claremont, Kentucky distillate. That is a rye grain base with 12% wheated bourbon out of Owensboro, Kentucky. So 5 through 6 year old product, blending two different mash bills together, making a combined 4 grain blend, bottled, non-chill filtered at 92 proof.
I like it. I'm sipping on it. I'm not a tasting and a review show. I'm more about the backside of the story. Um, I'm about the whiskey too, listeners. And this is for a 92 proofer, a very oily, very viscous. It's got those peanuts that I'm always talking about. And maybe that's that Claremont, Bardstown area that I'm always talking about, those knobs there. They seem to have this nuttiness in all the whiskeys from around there. So I'm getting a little bit that. And then that wheat kind of softens it out a little bit on the back end for me. Some nice stone fruits, some cherry pie to me almost on this. Very, very beautiful whiskey. Uh, I could see sitting at a duck camp after a long hunt and sipping on this with some fellows and just telling some lies about back in the day of how good the birds really were.
And
And was that what this whiskey was meant to be?
that's exactly what it was meant to be. So if you look at the packaging, it all kind of starts there with the branding, and then um, the brand comes to life, right? So it's meant to look like an old hunting magazine cover or old tin tacker. If you actually study the label, you'll notice it's not exactly even along the bottom or the top. It's meant to look like a magazine that's kind of been opened, and they're never perfectly rectangular right after you've opened them a bunch of times and flipped through it. And the back label mirrors that. We're using a really iconic kind of 1940s, 1950s color scheme, font type, and it's meant to, a picture says 1,000 words. It's meant to bring our target audience into that mode of nostalgia, thinking back to the memorabilia they've seen on the walls at their duck club or their duck camp, or remembering a hunt with their father, their grandfather, their uncle, or friends, or something from their past. The reason we like that sense of nostalgia is one that plays really well into the Americana themes of just general bourbon motifs in marketing, because bourbon is inherently American. There's a nostalgia to the history of it. And then, of course, it has to age for a long time in the barrel. So there is this kind of retrospective nature of looking into the past within just a bourbon as an industry, as a brand category, et cetera. And so we're looking for our brand to immediately trigger those responses to folks because those are so near and dear to us. So Duck Club was born out of memories from hunting as a kid, not old enough to drink, seeing the men sitting around the fire. I like to say you grow up really fast at a duck camp because you're going to overhear the older men talking about all kinds of things. They forget that there's little malleable minds and ears listening. And so you hear a lot of things that you weren't supposed to hear, maybe from your dad or your dad's buddy or your uncle, because they've had a few whiskeys and beers, and then you just start learning. And what I remember most about growing up hunting with my father and his friends is the stories and the voices of them talking about hunts they'd been on, like you're saying, talking kind of the walking to school both way uphill in the snow kind of stories, total fabrications, but you want to believe them, especially when you're a kid. And we're trying to bring a brand to life that embodies uh, this mentality, this lifestyle, the memories that are near and dear to us. And so, it starts kind of with the brand itself, and then it's like, how do we bring that to life in liquid form? And I really feel like, I've started a couple of different whiskey brands of various scales before. Somewhere during COVID, bourbon got really hoity and got really fancy and became driven by collectors on the coasts in terms of driving up prices, driving up allocations. And, I never liked that. I never wanted to build a brand that was meant for collectors. It's meant to be consumed. It's meant to be shared, meant to be drank. And so we designed a bourbon in our 92 proof that is a drinking whiskey for a whiskey drinker. Again, we never sacrifice on quality, but we want to deliver a product that's at a reasonable, affordable price point and that will be on shelves. If you've talked to me before, this hasn't changed in my philosophy of how to build a brand. And so, this 92 proof sits on shelves for between 27.99 and 29.99. It's a 5 through 6 year Kentucky 4 grain blend, non chill filtered from some of the most reputable distilleries in the market. at an everyday drinking price point, with a really fun lifestyle motif genre playing out in our marketing. And with this, and I'll stop after this one so you can start asking some more questions. We're trying to build a real brand, and what I emphasize by that's why I'm emphasizing so much about our label, the nostalgia, the lifestyle, because so many whiskey brands that have come out in the last decade have really just been whiskey labels. It's some made up story of somebody's name. It's some just random person's name or just some random name altogether. There's no target consumer defined. There's no lifestyle. It really has no reason to exist other than somebody had too much money and time on their hands. We want to build an actual brand that speaks to a lifestyle and a target consumer. Our target consumer is both the literal hunter and the aspirational hunter. So the aspirational hunter would be those that maybe have only been hunting once or even maybe never even went hunting, but their grandfather did or father did, and they want to be able to participate in that lifestyle one way or another, one sip at a time. And we're designing a brand for that consumer.
I love it. I love that concept. And as I'm sitting here sipping on this whiskey right here, it makes me think back of, several years ago, and I'm down here on the Gulf now in Southeast Texas, and bird hunting's a big thing down here. I got some buddies that have another podcast called the Bayou Dragons, and they are legendary down here in Southeast Texas, hunting the bayous and the coast. But I got into duck hunting up in Maine, right on the coast, and I can remember this is bringing back that memory of going duck hunting with my teenage son and getting him into it. And man, just him taking some shots that I'm like, there's no way he's going to hit that bird, and he kills it. And, I knew I had taught him right because he brought that bird home, even though it was a seabird, and those aren't very tasty. They taste very fishy. But me and my wife, we let him cook it. He soaked it in buttermilk and tried to take out some of that fishiness. But it might have been the worst duck I've ever had in my life. But I'll pop up some of those photos while we're talking here. And
Yeah.
it just makes me remember those hunts with him and the pride that he had. We went out goose hunting, and he'd knocked some geese out of the sky. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you made that shot. And I was like, man, you're like an eagle eye. And he serves in the Air Force today. And I know that he is about to start getting into that part of his life where he goes hunting and takes his son hunting. And I'm excited for him, but it just brings back those memories of hunting with him and up in Maine. And then we moved to Ohio when we were stationed there. And then I took my daughter and him hunting, and it was so cold that I had to almost break the ice to even put the boat in the water, and then break ice getting out to where we were going to hunt at stuff. But I slipped on the ice and I on the ramp and busted my back. I mean it, and they're both giggling. They're both. He's 18 or 19 years old. She's 15 or 16, and she's laughing. He's laughing. I wasn't laughing. There was all kinds of cuss words coming out of me. It was flowing.
I bet. I remember falling through the ice as a kid with my dad in eastern Arkansas. And the hunt was so good, he made me go sit back in the truck. The heater didn't work very well, and he and his buddies, went and finished out their limit. I thought I was gonna die of hypothermia. So we've all had those stories of falling through the ice. But, yeah, I think one thing to emphasize with duck hunting for those listeners that aren't, hunters themselves is some people mistake hunting and think that it's all about going and killing as many birds or animals as you possibly can. That's not it at all. It is about connecting with nature through this sport and the shared experiences with those you're hunting with. And duck hunting is a group sport typically. Few people go out by themselves. Duck hunting is typically with a group and a duck blind. There's typically a camp or a clubhouse, which is effectively just an adult treehouse, right? Where you're grilling, cooking, and more time spent in camp or at the clubhouse than it is out in the field just because there's only so many good hours of shooting light when the birds are moving. And so it's really all about the camaraderie and fellowship. And because duck season takes place in the winter, it's cold. That's whiskey's time to shine around the fire, bundled up, uh, drinking bourbon on ice or neat. That's yeah, I like to drink bourbon year round, right? But there's no question that bourbon's time to shine and consumption occasion is in the colder months. And I've always felt that bourbon and just whiskey in general is kind of the effective drink of the sport, if you will. Now, we don't support getting drunk or drinking before you shoot a firearm, but back at camp, after the long day, around the fire, playing cards, watching football, telling stories, that's what this brand's all about. And I think a lot of people connect with it. And those that don't have the experience, have the aspirational desire. They recognize they want that to be a part of their life because of the authenticity of those moments. I think people are recognizing more and more the importance of that.
I tell you what, I mean, the day I fell on that ice on the boat ramp, I needed to go back home after we finished the hunt. And that evening, I had a couple of sips of bourbon to ease the pain. But at the time, I didn't think it was too funny. But now I look back on it and cherish that memory with my kids. Just taking them both hunting and um, I relish that to this day because that was probably the last time I ever got to spend in the woods with them together, and just laugh and have a good time. And it's not about how many birds you kill. It's about those memories. It's also about conservation, how much money from hunting licenses, the sale of firearms, buying of, camouflage, how much of that goes back into the conservation because the American duck hunting was almost decimated on the East Coast and the West Coast by not hunters, by markets that would go out with these big giant punt guns
Mhm.
and kill just millions of birds. If you go to Newport News, Virginia, at the Maritime Museum there, and you go inside there and you look, and they have several of these big punt guns that they would put on a little boat, and they would kill millions of birds for markets up in Baltimore,
Yep.
up in DC.
Yeah, those punt guns are more akin to like a small cannon that shoots shotgun like, BBs than a gun, right? And those were commercial harvesting operations, like a commercial fishing operation, et cetera. Yeah, and you're exactly right. If it wasn't for individual hunters and the proceeds raised through the licenses, yeah, I question whether we would have wild ducks in this country. And then also, so I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, which is, in a way, the de facto duck capital. The folks from Arkansas aren't going to like that because my buddies in Stuttgart, Stuttgart's known as the duck capital of the world. But Memphis is the closest big metropolitan area to a lot of the best duck hunting land on the Mississippi Flyway. We have Ducks Unlimited headquartered here. We got great hunting gear companies like Banded, Shin, Drake. The list goes on. But Ducks Unlimited's based here, and Ducks Unlimited is the largest wetland conservation organization in the world. And Duck Club Bourbon, our bourbon, is now the official bourbon of uh, of Ducks Unlimited, and we support them with a royalty on what we sell. We estimate we could raise over $200,000 in our first year for Ducks Unlimited, and that's all going back to protect wetlands, which is important for both ducks' breeding grounds as well as their natural habitats. And wetlands, think swamps, think marshes, think rivers, think bayous. Um, Maybe not the place you want to always, go into unless you're a duck hunter or a fisherman, because there's snakes in the summer, there's alligators in certain areas, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but vitally important for the ecosystem and the planet. And Ducks Unlimited champions that. So it's so amazing to team up with them. So I like to say our brand kind of stands on five key pillars. It's really basic. We want to deliver a super high quality spirit at a very reasonable, approachable price point. We have a target demographic and lifestyle we are trying to champion. So our branding is clear what is on and off brand. We have an amazing partner of mine, Mr. Riley Green, who is throwing gasoline on our fire as a now quickly becoming superstar country artist who's known as the Duck Man. He's authentically very into duck hunting. And then lastly, of course, we got conservation with our partnership for Ducks Unlimited. We think that's a five part program to success.
I tried to get you guys to bring Riley Green on here. My wife was more concerned about it than I was. She was like, "Are you kidding me?" Uh, she was like, "I can't believe that you have his whiskey on here." And I said, "Well, the show is more about the whiskey than the artist." And I think Riley would probably agree with me on that. I don't think you guys want to be just another celebrity brand out there. I think he wants it to be authentic, and he would care more about the duck hunters out there drinking this whiskey. One of the things I wanted to point out is you said that was like a label from a magazine, but what it as a throwback to me is the federal duck stamp. That
Love it.
we all have to purchase. And I look at it and I'm like, man, I can remember getting my first federal duck stamp and just kind of coveted in that thing. And we were digging through all of our office stuff the other day, and I'd found one, and I was like, dang, I still have one of these. And I wish I'd have saved all those throughout my years and stuff.
It's an art style, that was really popularized somewhere in the 20s and carried through the 60s. The duck stamps, a lot of times still pay homage to that style of drawing and painting. Um, and we think those that have seen and been around this kind of memorabilia, whether it be the duck stamp, the tin tackers, the magazine covers, some of the neon signs, even from back in the day, are going to get it, because once you've kind of seen and been exposed to that, you get your mind immediately starts to recognize it and place those connections to it.
A question back to the whiskey, because
Let's
we
talk whiskey.
not talked a lot about the whiskey. I mean, we're talking about duck hunting, and folks, I'll pop up Ducks Unlimited up here for you and see if we could raise some money off this podcast for them. But back to the whiskey, the question on this was, why do a blend of a rye bourbon and a wheat bourbon? Was there a theory in that? A decision that would like, hey, we're going to do this because?
Well, wheaters are very popular, but it was really more of doing a 4 grain in this respect is like a challenge. And I wanted to let it be known that, like, while we have this clear lifestyle, we do have a country music star as a partner. Like, we're real deal whiskey blenders and spirit brand operators, and we can do hard things. And saying that we're going to produce a 4 grain product at this caliber for these price points, I think it proves that you got to know what you're doing. And I just wanted it to stand out. There's not a ton of 4 grains out there. They're a little more unique. I wanted there to be something that made our kind of core item, our everyday drinker, kind of our everyman product, uh, kind of immediately different from anything else on the market. There's obviously a number of 4 grains. There's not nearly as many out there.
Yeah, there isn't a lot out there. And some of them are very unique. And I got to say, this is a very unique blend of two different styles of bourbon together. I'd have to really dig deep. Somebody last week called me out about not knowing that Milam and Green or Woodford Reserve was using a pot still and a column still. And you're right. I probably made a mistake on that, but I pointed out that Milam and Green doesn't have a column still and Woodford Reserve doesn't have a column still. They're getting that whiskey from somebody else. And then there are distilleries out there like Giant Texas Distillery that has a pot still and a column still. But on this, I can't think, and I'd have to recollect my mind of anybody that's blending a wheated bourbon and a rye bourbon together. And that beautiful job of blending it together. Did Riley help you guys on blending this?
So he did, and we like to say that our story is not around Riley couldn't find a bourbon that he liked, and so he had to create his own. It's Riley wanted to be involved in this brand concept that's about championing duck hunting, outdoorsmen, fellowship, wetland conservation through the lens of a bourbon. And so originally we designed a number of different blends and kind of directions we could take it. We met with Riley and was like, "Hey, which way are you feeling? We want this to meet. It's not like you're have the, end all be all say on the team as a co-founder, but we want this to be something you're actually legitimately proud of and like, not just proud of. 'Cause sometimes you could recognize the quality in something, but you personally don't favor it. We wanted this to be something he very much enjoyed too, because we wanted buy-in from all the team members. And he chose this direction, and we were really excited because this was the direction we wanted to go as well. Of the five or six different kind of directions to take it, we had straight all wheaters, we had heavier rye. Um, we looked at some Tennessee juice and some different directions for the core item. We're really excited that he picked the direction that we also picked from the blending team. And so I keep mentioning we. So I've been a master blender for a substantial brand before this in the bourbon space. And then we also have Sam Schmelzer from MGP, who is the master blender at MGP for 12 years on our team, and Mr. Ryan Perry, who was the president and CEO of Heaven's Door on our team as well. And he was also the master blender there. And so the three of us are really sort of the blending committee. We get Riley's buy-in as well. But, we're a real deal group of, fairly experienced operators in the space. Um, right now in the bourbon market, unfortunately for those folks that built big distilleries, it is not the time to be distilling. There is a torrent, enormous excess supply of aged barrels on the market right now. And while that's unfortunate to those that invested in those barrels at the high water mark of the market, it's provides a great opportunity for a new brand to acquire very affordable inventory at an extremely high quality. So that way it benefits the consumer, our target audience, which is again based on over delivering quality relative to price. So if you're a bourbon drinker and really into actually drinking bourbon and not just collecting it and staring at it on your back bar, um, you should be really excited right now because of this excess inventory on the market. While some brands may go out of business because of some of the financial woes, ultimately there's going to be a higher bar, a higher standard set on the industry because there's just more aged bourbon out there. So look for age statements to go up. Look for, even if they don't go up on the label, look for the average age of barrels going into blends to go up. There's never once been this many aged barrels on the market. Even, we've now surpassed, I never thought we would get there, but we've now surpassed those all-time highs we've read about, in the late 70s when bourbon first kind of peaked and then fell off in the late 70s, rolling into the 80s.
Yeah, I think the number right now is there's like 18 million barrels aging in the state of Kentucky. That's not the other states, Tennessee, Texas, Colorado, that are producing mass amounts of whiskey. But that's a lot of barrels of whiskey just sitting there waiting for people. And there's no room for more. You can only build so many brick houses on your property. And
So just with that in mind, we're focused on blending, right? Because that's the opportunity presented today. Um, you would honestly have to be a fool to think that building a distillery in today's market would be a wise investment of capital.
What'd you say the price what point on this was again?
27 to 29.99.
Now, I gotta say the prices have plummeted, and it's probably thanks because of the bourbon bust. And I listened to somebody's show the other day, and they were talking, it's not as bad as people say it is, and I think that's just people wanting to sell more whiskey and know that hey, there's troubled times right now for some people, but I think it's great for the consumer that we're going to start seeing products like this at $30. I'd say 3 years ago, 2 years ago, this would be a $60 bottle by celebrity brands out there, and you're keeping it at an affordable price. To me, that shows that you guys are ethically thinking about the consumer, the duck hunter that, or the hunter that is just out there. He's worked his blue collar job. She's worked her blue collar job all week. And they just scraping by to have a little relaxation and to have a nice bottle of whiskey. Hats off to you guys for that. I love it.
Thank
And
you.
on that thought, I gotta bring up Frontline Heroes Outdoors. My buddies, old Preston Wall down there in San Antonio, Frontline Heroes Outdoors, and you'll see a sponsorship commercial for them. But Frontline Heroes Outdoors folks, they're taking veterans like myself, first responders, law enforcement back out into the outdoors, hunting, fishing, hiking. And I would love to see somebody out there that has a duck club to offer up a hunt for Frontline Heroes Outdoors. So reach out to me at Mike at the Whiskey Trip if you want to offer up a hunt for some veterans, for some first responders, especially if you're down here in the state of Texas, maybe over in Louisiana or close to us. We get those hunters out there and let them relax a little bit, kill some birds, and have some camaraderie, and maybe hell, share a bottle of this Duck Club right here. I'm sure McCauley would pony up a couple bottles for me if I needed
I think I could contribute a few cases.
it. I know you would. So you know, I would love to see you guys have like an old school 60s or 70s duck decanter. Maybe with a high proof weeder or high proof rye in one of these. Is there any plans for something like that in the future?
We have a lot of exciting new concepts that we're working on. Um, we're having a whole lot of fun with it, so I wouldn't count it out.
Call it something like the Big Chief 10 gauge. I don't know.
I love it.
The goose gun, how many people out there shoot a 10 gauge shotgun? Uh, you
I don't think
know,
my shoulder could take it.
I know I'd met this fella up in Maine, from the VFW there, and I think he's passed away now. But he had an 8 gauge, and that thing was a monster.
Jeez.
I could barely take it. I'm a big man, but he's the one that kind of got me into duck hunting and told me, he said, "Hey, you should try and take your son out and stuff." And then me and my son took an old boat and we sanded it down, repainted it, got a little bitty 20 horse outboard, slapped it on there, did everything ourselves. And I'm gonna post a photo of that little old boat we had. Great times. The memories of just doing that together. That's what this is all about. And I'm glad, McCauley, that you can bring back those memories for me and those whiskeys like this right here. That's what this podcast is all about, is bringing back those memories. Do you have a memory as a kid with your dad or grandfather of duck hunting like that?
Absolutely. That's sort of the genesis of the whole brand to begin with. Is my earliest memories are hunting with my dad. We have a cabin, an old hunting and fishing cabin on the Tennessee River that we call White Oak, and it features a lot of this old hunting memorabilia. It's where a lot of the inspiration for the art style of this brand came from. But we used to hunt on an island that didn't have a name in the middle of the river. It was marked by its number. And we called it Bad Boys Island. And we hunted on the northern tip of that island for, I don't think I participated for all of them because I wasn't old enough, but I think it was for 30 straight years. And it was a very hard kind of hunting because we had to set the blind up at the beginning of every season on the tip of the island and take our boats out to it. It's very windy, choppy conditions, rather dangerous on the river at times. Uh, it was feast or famine out there. There's either no ducks or a lot of ducks. And there's a lot more feasts. I mean, excuse me, a lot more famines than feasts. But being out there and battling the elements, finding the beauty in nature through the harsh conditions of winter with the cold water spraying you on the face. Um, like canned beans and simple food and snacks, peanut butter crackers never tasted so good other than when you're eating it there in the blind, freezing your ass off. Uh, you know, my dad used to call it Rats Coffee because that was what his dad called it, and it's just, whatever terrible brand of coffee that you've whipped up and put in a thermos, that probably hadn't been cleaned properly, but it's hot and it's coffee. There's no cream or sugar. You're drinking it black. Your hands are shaking. Never has tasted so good. And then, of course, the best is that, when you get older, those drinks when you get back to camp, or that big breakfast if it's still early in the morning that you make.
Well,
There's many of those memories, man. Like, there's no, I'm trying to think of one in particular. It's hard to pick out.
let's try to bring back one memory before we go to the break here. Um, Before we go to the break, and you're a man of age now, so you could tell me, and nobody's gonna go get a switch and whoop you. Uh, do you remember having your first pour of whiskey, and what was it?
The first time I had bourbon, was out of my dad's liquor cabinet. I was probably 14, and it was Kentucky Deluxe.
Kentucky Deluxe. I love it. Now, did you sneak that, or did he say, "Hey, you want to try this"?
That was definitely sneaked out.
I love it.
We got, with my friends, and I had it in this flask, and it was hot, just being like, "My God, how are we supposed to drink this?"
And now you'd probably like, "Good God, this is watered down."
Yeah, I haven't had Kentucky Deluxe since then, I don't think, but, the first, like, good bottle of bourbon I had, so I went to Virginia, University of Virginia for college, and, I was in law school at the time at Ole Miss, and studying for finals, drinking all kinds of energy drinks and caffeine, and I went to my buddy who owned a liquor store. I was like, "I need," I'm gonna be a lawyer, I need, like, to learn about bourbon. Can you help me pick a good bottle? Um, and then, I need something to have a nip on to unwind after drinking, 10 cups of coffee, studying all damn day, so I can actually go to sleep. And he gave me a bottle of Bowman's, which is a Virginia bourbon owned by the Sazerac Company. And I remember really enjoying it, and that got me researching about, wait a minute, there can be bourbon from Virginia. I thought it had to come from Kentucky. And it kind of was the first little loosening of that thread on the ball of yarn, that then kind of had me, wait a minute, the history of American whiskey really starts in Virginia slash Maryland, with the settlers moving west, and then the discovery of the fertile lands of Kentucky and Tennessee, and the indigenous crop of corn. And, it just kind of spiraled from there. Then I'm going back trying different bottles. But I think I got lucky because he's just, knew I'd gone to school in Virginia and had just like, hey, this would be a different one. But I got lucky that one wasn't just your another, Woodford or something else, because I might not have researched it. I might not have been like, wait a minute, why didn't it say Kentucky on it? And that was kind of the beginning of my deep dive into the bourbon history.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're up against the first half. As good conversations go, this has been a great one so far. And on the second half, we're going to step it up a notch. So we're drinking this 92 Duck Club. I drank two pours of this. That's how much I liked it. Not often does that happen on the show where I just keep trying to pour and pour and pour. But on the second half, we're going to step it up a notch to 110 proof. I also wanted to tell you about taking the whiskey ride. Now, this is a private Facebook group. You got to answer some questions to come into it. But answer those questions, come in, share your stories, share your adventures, share your whiskey trip with like-minded folks, like distillers, like content creators like myself, and whiskey nerds like you. Share your story in there. Come in there, join us. I also talk about my barrel picks in there. Hell, I might even try to do a barrel pick with Duck Club bourbon. You never can tell what old Big Chief's going to do. So come in there and join us. I'd really appreciate it.
Heck yeah.
It's just going to get deeper from here, folks. We'll tell couples. Yes, indeed. So listeners, you stick with us and we'll be right back. The Whiskey Trip is proudly sponsored by Guardian Coins, a veteran, family-owned and operated company that understand what it truly means to honor service, story, and tradition. Guardian Coins just doesn't make the challenge coins. They craft symbols of pride, legacy, and camaraderie. From military units and first responders to distilleries, brands, and special events, every coin is designed with purpose and built to last. Here at the Whiskey Trip, our official Whiskey Trip Challenge coin was brought to life by Guardian Coins, and it represents exactly what this ride is all about. Craftsmanship, community, and sharing a great pour with amazing people. From custom artwork to flawless finishes, Guardian Coins works with you one-on-one to turn your vision into something tangible, something you can hold, collect, and pass down. So if you're looking to create a coin that tells your story, whether it's from your unit, your brand, or your next big milestone, trust the folks who know how much that story matters. Visit Guardian Coins on Facebook and tell them Big Chief from the Whiskey Trip sent you. Now pour something good and let's get back to the ride. All right, listeners, we are back for the second half with Duck Club Bourbon. I got McCauley Williams on with me, and I poured myself another glass of whiskey. McCauley, this second pour right here is your guys' 110 proof. It's called High Brass. It's got a hunter on there with an old black lab. It looks like he's carrying an old single shot break open, right?
It's hard to tell exactly. That's what it looks like for sure. So we work with an old artist out of Louisiana who's done a lot of waterfowl paintings. These are very old paintings that we've licensed, and then zoomed in to and then changed some of the orientation, zoomed it in to make these labels. So I'm not exactly sure, but that is definitely what we have assumed.
Now, what's the blend on this one?
Well, first off, I'm going to explain why it's called high brass, and if I tell you about the blend. So, yeah, our other expression's a 92 proof, meant to sort of be the everyday pour over ice, drink out of a styrofoam cup at a hunting camp, not feel bad about it. Over delivering on quality, can be sip neat like we did, can be enjoyed by the whiskey connoisseur, but meant to be real easy. This one is for if you know kind of thing. I've always felt that bourbon shows really well somewhere around that 110 proof. But we're talking about kind of where bourbon got out over its skis a little bit during the COVID years. And one of the trends that I really have not appreciated is the hazmat bourbons. Somewhere along the way, that became like a dick measuring contest, frankly, where people were just drinking hazmat to prove how manly they are. No one actually enjoys it. They can tell you they do. But the irony as a blender is those super high proof hazmat bourbons will show a lot of faults when diluted almost always. Now, there's always an exception to the rule. But at 110 proof, you're getting the thicker viscosity you want. You're getting more of that burn, but your human palate is actually capable of picking up on the flavor behind it. And I've always felt that better aged bourbons show really well at that proof point. But recognizing with this hazmat culture that people wouldn't want or they would critique us for calling 110 proof a high proof, we came up with our own term of art, high brass. So in a shotgun shell, a high brass shotgun shell has a larger brass band to hold and enclose the more gunpowder. So a high brass shell has more gunpowder in it than a regular shell. And so we say it's high brass for those looking for a little more firepower. So kind of playing into our duck hunting, waterfowling theme and inventing our own kind of term of art, if you will, for what do you call 110 proof? It's not technically high proof, but it's certainly not low proof. This one is a 3-part blend, but go on. Sorry, Big Chief.
I think 110 proof is higher proof for a lot of people out there.
For sure.
Whiskey nerds like myself, and I've drank some hazmats. They're not all for me. Every once in a while, I'll dip into one. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. But like you said, I'm just, they're good. And you might see a barrel pick from me of a hazmat out there, but
for sure,
not all of them fit my palate. I've had them burn me out. Same thing with George T. Stagg. I've had a couple of George T. Staggs that are super high proof, and they tasted like fire to me. I'm like, I've siphoned gasoline that tastes better. That's just my palate.
There are some super hazmat stuff that's phenomenal, but again, it became this machismo thing of trying to convince everybody that you're more of a badass because you can drink a higher proof bourbon. That mentality really infected a lot of the bourbon community in a bad way, I think. to where like higher age statement's not always better, higher proof is not always better. But anyways, I think a lot of great bourbons show well at this proof point. So I've always wanted to do an expression at that 110. I did also mention that my parent company is called Morningside Brands. That's named after the street I grew up on. 110 was the address at Morningside that I grew up on. And my suite number of my office is suite 110. So partial to the 110. Also, just literally think bourbon show well there. But this is a 3-part blend. Big Chief, what batch number do you have on the back? Please note that we have all batch numbers listed on the back.
Batch 3.
Okay, great. Batch 3 I'm on batch 4, but they're the same blends. You can go to our website and see the exact blend ratios and sourcing, the point of origin for each component of our blends on our website. So batch 3 and 4, 2, 3, and 4 actually are all a 3-part blend. This is 80% 5.5-year-old bourbon from Claremont, Kentucky. This is 10% 8-year-old bourbon from Bardstown, Kentucky that was aged on the Atlantic Ocean. And this is 10% Claremont, Kentucky 9-year-old bourbon. So 5.5 from Claremont at 80%, 10% 9-year-old Claremont, and then 10% distillate from Bardstown, Kentucky that was aged on the Atlantic Ocean.
This is awful good. While the last one has some viscous to it, this one's, I love something that has that oils to it, that has good legs on the glass, like we always say, but also drinks with just that tad bit of spice on the mid palate. And then I'm getting those peanuts again. Surprise, surprise. You say Bardstown, you say Claremont. I think of those knobs there near Fort Knox, Kentucky. You know, a lot of my veteran friends out there know that place. I hate that place, but damn, do they make some good whiskey there. But I'm getting that peanut, that caramel, almost like a Payday candy bar, maybe a Baby Ruth candy bar, because that has that nuts in it and stuff. Super, super delicious. Man, could you drink this after a hunt or what?
Hell yeah. Like I said, this is the if you know, you know. Of late, Riley has the bottles always on him on stage when he performs, and of late I've noticed he's more and more choosing the high brass on stage with him, because he does a shot in all of his shows, which is pretty fun. But yeah, this is a 5, 8, and 9-year Kentucky bourbon blend from some of the most reputable sources. We're delivering this to consumers for between $37 and $39.99 on shelves at 110 proof. I mean, you can't beat it.
I don't think you can, because usually they say, you know, every 10 proofs, you know, cost you $10. So, or years, I guess.
Every year costs you $10,
yeah. So if you looked at it, you're getting one hell of a deal on this, I believe, and you're getting a tasty whiskey that's, I think it's proofed perfectly. It's got a beautiful piece of artwork on here, folks. I mean, it is, to me, quintessential 1970s magazine that your dad might have had. And if you really look at it, it is, you'd like, oh man, I got to read that right there and find out what they're talking about. But on the back, I love that you guys added that right there. Bourbon for the outdoorsman. You know, a guy or gal, like I said, this blue collar, that went hunting. They want something to sip on after that cold hunt. They get back home, they get back to camp, with their buddies, sit around a fire and drink some on this right here. And at that price, how can you beat that? I think this right here would probably, in other brands, would go for around $100 easily.
I agree.
Especially for a celebrity brand. And I don't think you guys consider yourself a celebrity brand. You just fortunate enough to have Riley on the team and be part of this experience, right?
That's right. And what makes the partnership with Raleigh so great. So I was introduced to Raleigh through a mutual friend. And then I mentioned him earlier, my buddy Ryan Perry at the Silent Spirit Group, who's one of our master blenders and sourcers. Helped because he had done some stuff before with Bob Dylan on how do you structure something like that once you. It's one thing just to partner on it, but you got to think about all kind. You introduce the lawyers to things, and um, there's just a lot of things to consider. But with Riley, he is known as the duck man. He has made duck hunting a central part of his entire lifestyle, his entire personal image. He opens up every single one of his shows, which he has like 90 of them this year, blowing a duck call. Um, and we were introduced, and he just immediately was like, "Man, I want in on this," because we had sort of like a rough pitch and pitch deck, kind of some concepts, the logo, kind of bottle shape, what the game plan was going to be, but not the fully fleshed out brand. And he's like, "Man, I want in. How do I get in?" He's like, "I don't want to be like some sort of like endorser or something. I want to be an owner and a partner. And this is the kind of thing I love." And um, I think as he's getting bigger and bigger, he appreciates more and more where he came from, his roots. Most of his music's about that. And we thought, man, I'd never considered having a celebrity partner. I don't know celebrities really. And I was like, man, this is incredible because it feels really authentic to who he is. I'm from we have a family farm in my family that's been in our family for 8 generations. Raleigh's got a multi-generational family farm in Alabama where he's from. Prior to the fame, now post fame, Rowley's life has been very different than mine. But prior to all that, our upbringings were very similar. He was a big football player. I was a really big basketball player. We were the exact same graduating high school class of '07. We're both 37 years old. And so we just like really hit it off through this. I was like, man, this makes a ton of sense. It'd be a ton of fun. I'm only in though if you're all in. And he's like, I'm all in. Let's do it. And we've brought this to life. And yeah, it's hard for me to say like we're not a celebrity brand. That would come across sort of as me trying to sell snake oil or something, but that's not how we view ourselves. We have a celebrity co-founder in the brand. I view that as like the negative thing about celebrity brands is that most people don't do them well. Like they're shit products. They're poorly marketed. They don't stand for anything. They have subpar liquid at a unreasonably high price. And that's kind of all the antithesis of what we're trying to build here. Judge us if you want, but like I say, you're not going to find a higher quality product for the price. You're not going to find a more clearly defined brand when it comes to brand pillars, what we stand for, the conservation elements out there. And so we're really proud of what we've got here. And we're just getting started. We just launched it back in November. It's been crazy.
Yeah, very, very new on the market. I know when they showed up, I'd sent some photos out to buddies, and they're like, "How'd you get that on in your hands? Because that's not in a lot of stores out there." How many states are you guys in right now?
All right. So today is June 30th, 2026. I'm saying that date because it keeps changing. We're in 27 states
Wow, that's a lot of states to be in.
in
Uh,
just 7 months. It's been absolutely crazy. Man, we've had the head buyers from some of the biggest liquor store chains in the country have been calling and emailing us asking for the product. We've had control states. I'm sure y'all know what control states are, like Alabama, North Carolina, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Oregon, of all places, calling us saying, how can we list this product? Normally that takes a year to apply for to get listed. And like, how do we get it? We'll list it immediately. Um, and a lot of that's because I think they recognize the demographic of bourbon drinker that's going to respond to our messaging. And then a big part of it's the price. I mean, the state government doesn't care about a celebrity involvement. You know how many of those have come out? They care about value to the consumer, price, and what's going to turn off their shelves. Been
well,
wild.
I would say if Total Wine and Specs, if them two brands, those two stores reached out to you, then you're doing pretty good. That's the
Total
two
called us
largest
1 week.
independent liquor stores that's out there.
Total called us after the first week.
Well, that's no shock right there.
Pretty crazy.
But the king of Texas whiskey, uh,
Specs.
I gotta say it. They're the king of Texas whiskey is Specs out there. They got 200 and something stores, and then they just bought another liquor store chain in Vegas.
Yep.
They're rolling it out.
Specs has been great to us. We've done 2 events with them around Riley shows when Riley was in town and came out. We love the folks at Specs. We love the folks at Total Wine and More and other chains, but we also I think the big chains would be okay with me saying this. We also really love the independent liquor store owner. Because we describe family farms and the genesis of our families. Those are mom and pop, family owned businesses at the end of the day. And a lot of, most people might not realize, but a lot of the American liquor store industry is independent, family owned, small business. And with certain laws in some states, like in Tennessee, you can only have 2 liquor stores per family. So it prevents chains from coming in. And so there are independent markets, and we love our independent retailers as well, um, because it's really cool to work with, family, multi-generational family owned businesses.
Yeah, I think those small mom and pop liquor stores are amazing. And I hate to see some of them go by the byway and stuff. That it hurts a little bit to see that.
For sure.
But at the same time, they got to keep their prices fair. And I think that's what drives them out of the market sometimes. But at the end of the day, there'll be new ones. Every day there's, even up here and down here in Southeast Texas, just north going towards Lumberton. There's a new little liquor store there that opened in the last couple of years, and he's independent. He doesn't own too many stores. He owns one store, and that's a lot of places across America. That's what you see. Control states are a little bit different. In Virginia, you have ABC Liquors. My son-in-law, Daichi, he works for ABC Liquors listeners. Shout out to him. But even in control states, those liquor stores really are run by the employees there, and they decide kind of what's on the shelves. And it's a weird concept in Virginia how they run stuff, but most of those control states are like that. Pennsylvania is another control state like that. It's those bygone ways of marketing. It's like buying beer in Pennsylvania. You can go into a bar and buy, if they have a package license, and buy a case of beer inside of a bar. Man, what a concept that is. And that's like here in Texas, you could belong to a club and you can have a liquor bottle in there and bring your own beer and stuff in there. There's a lot of places like that, BYOB.
A lot of your listeners might not think about what it takes from like the operational side of running a craft spirit brand or just a spirit brand in period. But from the craft perspective, obviously you don't have the infrastructure of some multinational conglomerate behind you. So we had to build it all ourselves. And you're exactly right. There's 50 states. When prohibition was repealed, Congress gave the governance of alcohol to the states in 1933 and 4, and every state developed their own little effed up system for how they were going to regulate the production, distribution, and sale of alcohol. And so I have to know the law of how to, in the route to market strategy, adjust based on the law for all 50 states. The way we market and sell and price relative in terms of wholesale and deal structure in a control state is very, very different than a chain liquor store state like Texas. And Texas is very different from how we do an independent market like Tennessee. So another big difference between some states too is Texas has you've heard about the 3-tier system. Texas has a 4-tier system because there are liquor stores with Class B licenses that supply all the bars and restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sell to a bar in Texas, I've had to sell it to my wholesaler that then sells it to a liquor store. The liquor store then sells it to the bar, and the bar sells it to you, the consumer. and I am now 4 steps removed from my sale into the state of Texas to a consumer. That's very hard to navigate for a small business. And in every state, it works differently, um, and it makes it a real challenge. And expanding fast is hard because you're adapting your route to market strategy, um, to flow through kind of the conduits of the system of that state to the consumer. Has to, it's all different. We have to have a team. We have a team of 18 full time employees, from accounting, logistics, operations, marketing, sales. It's a lot that goes into this, and I just always challenge the consumer, because a lot of times I feel like the consumer. We have an amazing craft tequila brand too in our portfolio called Almadel Jaguar, additive free badass tequila. And there's a really similar community in agave spirits as there is in bourbon of these aficionados that just take it so seriously. But I think a lot of times there's a confusion that this is like, I'm not Vincent Van Gogh. We're not trying to be a poor, dying artist who's going to leave some piece of art that only is discovered posthumously to be put in a museum. Like, we are business operators. We have integrity. We want to do the consumer right, but it has to be profitable. We employ people whose families and children that need health care and education and have expenses. Like, the whole thing has to work. And from a business perspective, I think a lot of times I feel like that's lost on these aficionados and consumers. They want to fetishize it as this like weird art form. It is an art form, but it's a business and there's real lives behind it. I don't know. I just emphasize that because there's just a whole hell of a lot that goes into it to make it actually work.
Yeah, I don't think people really dive into it that much. They grab their bottle of whiskey and they paid $40 to it, and they think, most people think that $40 of this is going to McCauley Williams, when a dollar or two might go to the liquor store, a dollar or two might go to the distributor, a dollar or two goes to the tax man, and then a couple bucks goes to the bottle, a couple bucks goes to the label,
Well,
a couple bucks goes to the cork, and then there's the juice. So you had to pay the farmer. You had to pay the miller. There's a lot of people involved inside there. And then if you just kept going down, they're the little bitty part at the bottom right there. The last couple bucks McCauley Williams gets, and that's it.
let's break it down for real quick. Just quick math. So on a $40 bottle, $39.99 SRP. We generally, as a supplier, will operate off of around the target for a craft brands operate around a 50% gross profit margin. Based on the distributor markup, which is typically around 35%, and the retailer markup, which is typically anywhere between 25 and 40%, depending on the state, we typically gross around half of the retail price. So that's not our gross profit yet. So if on a $40 bottle, we typically charge to our wholesale partner, whether that be the state or an independent distributor, $20 a bottle. And then like I said, we operate off of at least try to operate off a 50% gross profit margin. So we net $10 off of a $40 bottle because we have $10 in cost of goods sold. So that would be the bourbon or the liquid cost, the juice cost, as we call it, plus what we call the dry goods, label stoppers, seals, boxes, logistics, federal excise tax, etc. And so that $10 in gross profit per bottle has to cover all of our expenses, whether that be office lease, logistics, operations team, marketing, sales, salaries, except meals, travel, yeah, you name it, what it takes to run the business. So it's extremely hard and it's a lot thinner margin. I think most people realize. And the only way to make money in this industry is scale. And that's part of our strategy and why we believe in doing the consumer right, because we recognize this isn't ever going to work unless we can build up, some reasonable scale. And that scale is not becoming Diageo or anything, but it's like we can't just sell 1,000 bottles a year. That's a hobby. It's not a business. We need to sell tens of thousands of cases to get it up to a point of where we can afford to pay people people can, afford to take that leap of faith and work here at our company. Uh, there's a there's a real world out there, unfortunately.
I think, great explanation. I don't think anybody's ever broke it down like that on one of my shows, and I love it. I think a lot of the listeners out there, viewers, will love that explanation. Um, but I also think that you would love for a young 21-year-old man or woman that's into hunting, and they bought this brand right here. They went into the store and they're like, man, I hunt, I duck hunt. I think I'm going to buy this because of that. And, I heard old Big Chief talking about it. So I'm going to buy myself a bottle. But I'm sure in 20 years that you would still love to have that same consumer buying your whiskey. And
Amen.
I brought that up not too long ago that had whiskey has a marketing problem, right? They're marketing to other folks out there, and they forgot the blue collar worker that got them to the dance.
Amen.
And it looks to me like you guys are, hey, you know what? These other brands have forgotten you, but hey, we got something for you over here. Something that's priced affordable. You can buy it, and we'll stick with you. And we're going to give you nuggets along the way. And we're starting out with the 92 proof and the 110 proof, but we might have some other stuff to bring you for you. Is that correct?
That is exactly it. So you got to remember, I'm not the master blender, or I'm one of the guys on our blending. I'm the CEO of the company, so that's why I get so. I'm over here talking about the way the actual business works. And realistically, that's what a CEO does, right? I'm dealing with a lot more spreadsheets, sales calls, Zoom meetings. It's more like normal work than getting to drink bourbon all day, right? But yeah, absolutely. The brand is built from the consumer first. It's built from the concepts that Riley, my team, and I really connected with as consumers, and tried to bring that into this brand, knowing that there's a lot of other people out there that have shared experiences with us that would identify with it. And yeah, making it a high quality product, reasonably priced, with a target audience, defined lifestyle. We want people to buy more than once. We don't want to be a collector bottle. Now we may come out with some limited editions along the way to keep some of the more whiskey aficionado audience engaged, and that's just fun for us to do. Um, Big Chief, when is this podcast going to be released to the
We'll,
market?
we'll take we'll take that out of there. But this is coming out next, and I'll take all this out. But this is coming out next Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm pretty hot and heavy on quickness. So right after the 4th of July weekend.
I just had to ask relative to what I was going to share. So suffice it to say that we have a lot of really exciting new R&D expressions in the works. I mentioned that we're the official bourbon of Ducks Unlimited. We got something really exciting we're working on with them that will be coming out not too long, maybe say a month or so after the release of this podcast. That's a really exciting big announcement. We got a single barrel program that we're going to start rolling out. I got some really, I'll drop one little secret. I've got some 9-year-old Kentucky bourbon I've been aging in maple brulee casks. So that's where they take a maple syrup cask from Canada, torch it to cook the sugars back into the wood. We've been resting that 9-year-old bourbon in it for going on about 7 months now. We'll be releasing that in a limited release. So we will have some fun along the way with some collector stuff, but our brand is built off of our core two, which is our 92 and our high brass.
I love it. Hey, maybe old Big Chief will get a bottle of that, or at least a little sample.
I think old Big Chief will get some of the action.
I love it. I love it. Now, throughout this show, you've talked about hunters drinking responsibly, and I love that you, as a CEO, you don't hear a lot of CEOs that coming out of their words, out of their mouth, drink responsibly. But that brought up a point to me about drinking responsibly, and that's my good friends over at Whiskey Valor Foundation. They're trying to eradicate drinking and driving in the military. I'm gonna pop up their QR code. I'm gonna pop up their logo for you. I would appreciate it if you would go to that QR code and donate $1, donate $5, donate $10. Hell, if you got big pockets, donate $10,000. I'd love to see something like that. Eradicating drinking and driving in the military, getting these young men and women home from events so they don't climb in their vehicle. What they do, Whiskey Valor Foundation, is they give out Uber vouchers for like $25 to get folks home from events. I really appreciate it if you give to that. Now we'll get back to talking about this Duck Club bourbon because, man, I poured myself a second glass. I don't know if you saw that or not, but like I said, good whiskey deserves to be drank. It don't need to sit on a shelf and look pretty and have a signature on it or anything like that, or be greedy and try to resell it or anything. It needs to be drank. It needs to be open and appreciated. And McCauley, I appreciate you sending this and sharing your whiskey with me, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I couldn't agree more.
Well, I'm gonna reach back here. We got a bottle, extra bottle you sent me, and I gotta say, whoever packaged this up and sent it to me, they deserve a raise. It is one of the best packaged deals got sent. I reused one of your guys' boxes the other day to send something out, but even for the giveaway, I'm ready to roll for this thing. But you guys did send a bottle of your 92 proof with this. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a sample, 4-ounce sample of the 110 proof for this giveaway. And that hat you're rocking right there, you sent an extra hat with me. And when I go duck hunting this fall, hopefully with the Bayou Dragons, I hope you guys are watching, take old Big Chief hunting. But I got 2 of these hats, so I'm going to give one of these hats away, one of the 92 proofs, and then one of my rocks glasses and a sample of the 110. This is how we're going to do this giveaway. I want you to do an emoji of a duck because we're drinking Duck Club bourbon. What else would you put? I want you to tag 4 friends. I want you to follow Duck Club Bourbon on Instagram, and I want you to follow the Whiskey Trip on Instagram. Like and share the post. And then also, one last thing, you got to be 21 and you got to reside in the United States. I'm going to do this giveaway all week long. And on Monday evening, you know how I like to do it around 7 o'clock. I don't know. Sometimes I do a little early. Sometimes I do a little late. Life gets in the way. Miss Viv says, hey, you need to go out there and cut the grass, or you got to do this, or you got to do that, or get in the pool and drink some whiskey with me. So, but around 7 o'clock, I'll do this giveaway. I'll announce one lucky winner for this giveaway right here. And you know how I like to do it. I don't use a randomizer. I pick people that will support Duck Club Bourbon and support the Whiskey Trip. So folks, emoji of a duck, tag 4 friends, like and share the post, follow Duck Club Bourbon, follow the Whiskey Trip, B21, reside in the United States. That's all you gotta do. Put in for this giveaway. If you don't put in for it, you don't win it. Like I said, I love people that support the Whiskey Trip and that will support brands like Duck Club Bourbon. They're giving back to conservation as well. A great artist out there. I love his music. He's a semi-good actor. He was on Marshalls lately, but check him out, Riley Green. Check his music out. I'll be doing posts all week long. I'm going to use Riley's music on all my posts, or at least I'll try to. But McCauley, any last words for listeners out there?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to get on here. I hope you can hear my passion in it. There's no bullshit in this. I'm pretty tired. We grind pretty hard building this. This is not like for the faint of heart. And so it's like, I don't have time to get on here and sell some bullshit story. This is us. This is who we are. This is a lifestyle we're proud of that we want to pass on to our kids. And we hope you appreciate it. And if you don't identify with it, give us a chance. I think you'll be really, really surprised.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Welcome back to the family. This is your second time recording with old Big Chief. So, I appreciate brands that, support me and support my listeners and viewers. I think this is one amazing giveaway for you listeners. A bottle of their 92 proof, and I'm going to put a big old sample together of the 110 proof, plus the cap, and one of my sexy rock glasses right here.
Riley wears the hat on when he plays on most of his shows too. So it's the hat's getting some fame and notoriety. We actually Riley and our team designed it.
I like it. It's old school.
It's old school. It's 47 brand. It's great.
Yeah. Where can listeners, besides on Instagram at Duck Club Bourbon, where else can they find you guys at on social media?
Yeah, so we've rolled out our Facebook page. Definitely be sure to check out duckclubbourbon.com. We got a really fun little duck hunt inspired video game on there you can play for discount points on our merch store. You can learn more about our authentic conservation message and how we support wetland conservation in partnership with Ducks Unlimited. You can read a little bit more about the origins of the brand. You can find all the exact blend ratios from each batch. And I would say there, I mean, Instagram's been our primary social media focus with some of the TikTok regs, and we're now starting to activate a little more on Facebook.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thanks again, McCauley, for sharing your whiskey with me. Now, listeners, I was thinking about Frontline Heroes Outdoors. They got a event on October 3rd. It's called a Heroes Night to Remember. I'm going to pop up all the information right here for you. I want you to check it out. If you're in the area of a Heroes Night to Remember for Frontline Heroes Outdoors, I want you to go ahead and buy yourself some tickets. Hell, you might even see Miss Viv and old Big Chief there in our cowboy hats. Just don't come up and touch my cowboy hat. I got big boots. So, I'd appreciate it if you support this great cause, this great charity. They pour their heart and soul into helping out first responders and veterans like myself get back into society and enjoying life. Listeners, you know where you can find old Big Chief, right? On social media. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, and now you can find me on YouTube. If you're watching me and you haven't hit that subscribe button, shame on you. Hit it. That's going to tell you, hey, this big old joker's got another show coming out. Now, if you're listening to me, listen to Mark and Matt and the whole crew from The Bourbon Life on Apple Podcast, on Amazon, on iHeartRadio, on Spotify. I know they'd appreciate it, and I would too. Now, if you like what you're hearing from myself and the Bourbon Life crew, give us that 5-star review. Leave some comments. Those comments, those reviews, they open up doors to distilleries, to great brands like Duck Club Bourbon, and get great guests on my show like Mr. McCauley Williams. If you have a distillery or a brand in your backyard and you want them to come on the Whiskey Trip podcast, reach out to me, Mike at the Whiskey Trip. I'm very approachable. Send me a DM, hell, private message, whatever they call them. Just send me a message. Tell me who you want me to get on. If you got a number for them, that's even better. You got a name, a business card, whatever. I'll reach out to them, try to get them on a show and take a ride with old Big Chief. I'll showcase their whiskey out there. But that's what the show is all about, is telling stories from across America, telling like McCauley Williams's duck hunting experiences on the old Mississippi River. I spent a little time on the Mississippi, hunting, fishing, driving Coast Guard boats. So it kind of brought those memories back to me while we were sipping on his whiskey. But keep coming, keep listening. I really appreciate your support. This is old Big Chief, and thanks for taking this ride with me, baby.
Thanks to our sponsors, the Heritage Flag Company and Guardian Coins, for making this episode possible. A special thanks to Duck Club Bourbon for sharing their whiskey and story.